When I was 5 years old, I remember watching the Terminator 2, you know, the bar scene where he walks in naked and beats up 20 outlaws and drives off on a new motorbike. And I think that blueprinted on me for the rest of my life. You know, instantly I wanted to look like Arnold. I wanted to be Arnold, visualize myself being in his footsteps.
Because, you know, he got in the bodybuilding, was off the Charles Atlas, wasn't it? And they, you know,
exactly.
do you remember the old ads in the back of cartoon, in comic books would say, you know, don't have sand kicked in your face, use bull worker. So, but for you, it was the man rather than the machinery.
Yeah, like, no, it was definitely the man. It was the figure that walked on set that just mesmerised me, and that blueprinted on me for the rest of my life. And you know, I actually became a very competitive swimmer. I was a national champion swimmer in my early teenage years.
That would be. I'm trying to describe it to
you.
You
look like you'd sink now.
I tell you what, I can still swim 50 metres faster than 99.9% of people on the planet.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Because how can I describe it? Your shoulders are about the same profile as my old mirror dinghy sailing boat. I mean, you're about as wide as I am tall. What are? Give us some of the dimensions.
I don't know. Geez, I'm 6'3", currently 27.5 stone. I've got a 60-inch chest, 23-inch biceps. And
what do you eat in a day?
Oh,
this is going to be horrendous.
The question is, what don't I eat in a day?
Go on.
It's a pretty usual diet, really. It's very well balanced, you know, protein, fats, and carbs. But it's times 4. So if you have a full English for breakfast, I'll have 4 full Englishes for breakfast. You have a bowl of porridge, I'll have a bucket of porridge.
I'll get on to the weight stuff, but because I've read this before, and we've all got roughly the same bodies. So. Is it good for you? I know that sounds a dumb question, but eating that much.
But he looks quite fit, doesn't he? He looks quite fit. He does look fit. I mean,
I was fit for a purpose. You know, I was fit to lift weight. When I won the World's Strongest Man, I was 32 stone, so I was a lot bigger than I am now.
So you've been on a diet?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's fit for purpose, and like any sport, you know, when you're right at the top, there's risks. You know, there's footballers that drop dead. There's marathon runners. When you're pushing the human body to the limits, you know, things go bust.
Talking of which, the deadlift world record holder, how much did you have to lift for that?
So the world record on the day was 463. I actually lifted.
What is pounds?
No, 463 kilos. And hang on. I lifted 500.
Kilos?
Yeah.
What's that equate to? Yeah, is that like the weight of a bus or something?
Geez, I mean, it's like the weight of a very fat, overfed racehorse.
Okay.
A bear.
Getting on for a small car, is it?
Yeah, definitely. Two Harley Davidson motorcycles. So one in each hand. Pick it up.
What about working out? How much time do you spend down the gym?
Obviously more than you, Kevin.
More than all of us put together, let's face it.
I'm in the gym probably 3-4 hours every single day, pretty much.
I know you said it's high risk, but the strain on your joints, I mean, is it going to wear your body out? I mean, I know Kieran Bracken, the rugby player, I think he's had 4 discectomies in his spine.
You know I'm pretty lucky. I've retired from the sport now 2 years, and, you know, I'm fit and healthy. I've dropped my body weight down. I feel good, look good.
You do?
And, just live my life. Thank
you. He's putting you two boys to shame.
Oh, thanks.
I don't mind being the skinny guy. Can I mention the S word, steroids? I mean, they're linked to the bodybuilding world big time.
It's a tested sport, so, you know, it's very vigorous. You know, go into these competitions, anything in your system, you're sent back home. So it's very lenient.
You know, we eat sometimes for comfort. As a Tottenham Hotspur supporter, I can tell you, every major loss I have attended, whether it's been at the Emirates or been at Stamford Bridge, it only hurts because it's true. Seashell of Lisson Grove is my favorite fish and chips in London. So my very first match that I ever saw live, my friend Clint Dempsey was playing for Spurs at the time, and we lost 5-2 at the Emirates after we lost Adebayor.
Good result for you.
Former Fulham man, by the way. Played for Fulham as well.
And got there, and I was like, I am going to console myself with fish and chips.
Yep.
I was at the 2-2 draw at Stamford Bridge where we handed the league title to Leicester. Again, I just turned to my friend and said, we're getting an Uber to Seashell of Lisson Grove. And I'm eating my weight in fish and chips. So that had nothing to do with my appetite. It only had to do with my mind.
What about football pies? Have you tried football pies?
Well, that kind of is what we're dealing with on the new show.
Okay.
We might return to the Seashell and Lisson Grove, but tell us first then about Adam Richman's Matchday menus.
So Matchday menus is with Copa 90 on Facebook Watch, and what it is, we're exploring the food, not just at the stadium grounds, but the food and fan culture that's connected with the club. So it's where they eat the night before, and we're with the ultras, like not casual fans, proper hood mask-wearing ultras, where they eat the night before the match, where they gather, where they eat during, afterwards, and how these foods are not just like a bit of scran before the match, but also how it's connected to their culture. So, for example, Los Angeles Football Club was largely created because people in Los Angeles of Latin, Asian, different descent felt sort of out of the loop. And so they wanted to represent, as they say, the fans that really make up the skyline. And they are very often the working class minorities that comprise LA.
I really, really like making people laugh. That's my main priority. So that's why I'm there.
Live rather than on camera or even in front of an audience on camera?
Live was where I started. And it's still the most exciting thing. I mean, I find that when I write stand-up, I still write with a biro in a notepad. I don't go on a laptop because I still think of it as going back to the source.
Do you?
When I say go, I don't mean as
Not
in
that
alcohol.
sort of
I'm not
source.
going back. If I go back there, there'll be no to it.
Do you allow yourself ad libs? I mean, I wonder whether you start off and I mean, Ross Noble was saying, wasn't he? He comes on sometimes with his plan. And he only gets the first line in and never gets back for it for the rest of the show.
Ross does it a lot. But no, I think I'd go a bit balmy if I just did, if I was a trained actor, I could maybe just, do the normal jokes. But the big joy for me is doing stuff, that's about where I am and then talking to people in the audience and then finding out what they've got to say and responding to that. And people love... To paraphrase Johnny Mathis, they love the moment when a joke is born. If they are there and they know that joke could not have been, it could only have happened that night from that remark, I think people really like it.
Right, who's the phone? Who's guilty?
Is that you?
I think it's Frank.
Everybody looks guilty. Everybody play. We're going to have a purge.
It's me.
It's
Yeah,
you.
I knew
Okay.
it.
I'm sorry, everyone. It's just to prove that work is still coming in.
Do you get, as you had with India, as soon as you walked through the studio door before we came to air, everyone going, do you still do fantasy football? Does that get on your nerves after a while?
No.
Why don't you still do fantasy football then?
I always said... we got asked, actually, by the BBC to bring it back a couple of years ago, and... I just thought it'd be like those Star Trek movies where everyone's got wigs and corsets.
But added comedic value.
Yeah, mate, I sort of think now it's been superseded by the internet. We used to show funny clips.
Frank, you're
of
so
football.
wrong. It's still a massive thing. Look, so many people are into it.
Okay, I'll bring it back.
What happened to Stato, by the way, just as a quick aside?
No, he's a father now, Stato.
Well, that's it. His
We
life's
didn't
over.
see that coming. The last I heard, he was sort of... he was involved very much with horse racing and gambling advice and stuff like that. He was always a very, supernatural gambler. He used to win. He told me he had a treble up once, and it was the cup winners in England, Scotland and Holland, and he got all three. And he won. I think you are in league with the devil if you are pulling off bets like that. Yeah.
So, one of my dear friends has a very bad stomach, and I know that he has worked with a coach, a voice coach from a Central School of Speech and Drama, actually,
really?
is
Wow.
where they trained. And I know that you brought a colleague in, Chris
I have.
Crooksey, with us this afternoon. If I could bring you in, Chris, because...
Here we go, Chris.
Robert Peston is quite famous for managing his speech impediments, and I guess it makes people wonder whether anyone can do
I didn't
it.
know he had one.
Did you not?
I just thought it was the way he spoke,
No,
and
he-
he enjoyed the pause, and
He uses the
it's
pause.
his living now. It's
Yes.
what he's known for.
No, he uses his pause to control his stomach, which I thought was
I had
fascinating.
no idea.
So how long have you two known each other?
On the same programme, I've got a stammer too. We met... Our eyes met across a crowd.
And you work together?
Yes,
gotta be
yes.
15
So we've
years.
worked together probably for 10 years now, and my speech is up and down. I have great days, I have terrible days. And on days like today, when I'm on live radio, it's hard, and so he's here to literally kick me under the out every time I find it hard to speak.
Doing just fine, you really are.
Does singing help?
Good question.
Yeah. So every time I sing or act, even, you know, this role that I'm playing in Footloose is.
You're going to say that one again for me.
This role I'm playing in Footloose is a acting role, and so every time I've rehearsed a script, I try to adopt a different persona. Then I aren't me anymore. I kind of walk in a different way, and and
I find that
it's never an issue ever.
So without wishing to bore the listener, but for various reasons that I don't need to go into, I've ended up being insomniac for about 18 months.
Oh, wow.
And it's my first sort of insight into kind of having to change my behaviour to adapt to a situation that I don't particularly want to have to endure, but it's there. And it's really interesting hearing you say that if you create a character, you can step into that and leave it behind. And I find that fascinating, because I wished I could invent a character at bedtime and I could just become that person and sleep.
Yeah.
Because that's what I need to do.
Yeah, and I think that's why I enjoy it so much, is because every time I'm on stage, it's a real, you know, it's my only form of expression, as it were. Only form of expression, and... yeah,
I see Chris urging you to repeat. I'd just like to know why. Why is that important?
In order to cancel the bad speech. If we don't do that, if we start stuttering, can't get a word out, and we move on, then the brain thinks, I can't say that word.
That's right.
And it builds up.
What makes a bad day, when you said when you're having a bad day? Because for most of us, nerves come into play.
Sure.
Yet you do a job that operates on nerves a lot of the
right.
time. So what?
Yeah, if I'm stressed, tired, overworked, you know, this is... we've had about 20 interviews today, and so I'm just obviously extremely tired. But, however, this is the one I'm enjoying the most, so that's good.
Good.
Nicely said. So we've got Footloose coming. Rehearsals will start when?
Yeah, so they actually start in March, and then we open in April.
Is there a lady dancer in the storyline? I'm assuming there is.
There is a lady in it. Has she been cast yet?
She hasn't, but she looks very much like you.
Oh, you know who it is?
Yeah.
You know who it is? Okay.
Oh, there we go. I could maybe get the gig.
Yeah, you could. Come on.
Who was it in the film?
I'm trying to remember who it was now. I can let me just do a quick search, because it
no one
wasn't.
knows.
I'm not too sure. No.
Okay,
hold
okay.
on,
That's good. So it can't be
She was
that
an
big a
unknown.
film then. Oh, okay. Okay.
Gareth, I was there.
Laurie Singer.
At that famous. There you go.
That's
Laurie
who it
Singer,
was.
there we
Played
go.
I was there
Ariel.
at that famous sing-off you had with Gareth Gates. I was in the house there. And
Singing off with Gareth Gates.
Will Young, you mean?
That is Gareth
with,
Gates.
that's
That'd have been a
Gareth with
difficult.
Will Young. Yeah,
Wrong
you beat
person.
yourself, didn't you?
I did.
And it felt like, but you remember how massive that was?
Yeah, it's huge.
It's like the epicenter of everything that mattered at being there. Do you still remember that night?
Yeah, well, it was the first of its kind, wasn't it? Well before X Factor and all those shows, and so you know, we didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that actually helped us in some way.
Yeah.
You know, I was still extremely young, and I just enjoyed every part of it. I think part of it.
It was an amazing night. I remember that.
Yeah.
But it's totally changed your life, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
because my missus worked in the music biz, and it's fascinating that there's now almost all focus on Breaking People is to go through some kind of television, because that's got a bigger audience. I mean, especially got the internet, but other than that, you have to make it on television now.
Yeah, and you know, I actually didn't want to audition in the first place.
Did you not?
Yeah, we were told that I'd have to speak, and so I was a bit like, oh no, it's gonna be a nightmare. Yeah, I kind of persevered with it, and I'm actually really pleased that I did, I guess.
I think it's an incredible thing to do, if I may say so, because I can't think it's... if you're stressed out by something, it takes quite a lot of guts, I think, to
Yeah,
put
sure.
yourself up there and face it
Yes.
full on. And
Head
I
on, that's
can't
right.
think of anything more terrifying, in one sense, if you have a speech impediment, than being forced to step out and confront it. But I wonder if it's... I had a very miserable experience when doing Stars in Their Eyes, because I can't sing, unlike you. So I knew that as soon as I started, I would be found out. So you're just waiting, and you think, everything about this is going to be bad. The door opened, and I was with Vanessa Felch, she was my partner, and the door opened, and as I stepped out, I could see Vanessa was about to literally collapse with nerves. And she's a strong
woman.
shaking like this. And in a funny sense, I just wondered if you get the same, Gareth. As I'm walking down to the microphone, I actually felt the nerves disappear. It was too late. I was there. My head was in the lion's mouth. So I thought, well, might as well do it. What's the worst? Is it like that for you every time you put yourself out in the public eye?
Yeah.
God,
And it's
blimey.
Yeah.
The stress.
Well, yeah, you know, it's the actual singing part of it. It's
the easy bit.
Yeah, it's the chatting, you know, and I just have to persevere, I guess, and just.
I think it's absolutely
keep on working at it, I guess.
So admirable to just to face
Thank
your fear every day.
Yeah.
You have done some incredible roles, haven't you? You've played Joseph, you've played Marius in Les Mis, you know, going into Footloose. Is there anything up there that you'd really like to do? Is there something?
I'd actually like to go into Wicked at some point. And...
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I can't remember who I knew that was in Wicked, but every time I saw her, she had green makeup
Great,
deep down in her ears.
Yeah, it's, you know, and I'd actually like to try and do it before I get too old.
Shut up. Can I ask, just by way of conclusion, Gareth, I never expected the conversation to actually go in this direction, but it's really interesting. I'm sure people will be listening whose kids or maybe themselves might have an impediment. What advice would you give to any young person now who feels like maybe you did as a kid, overwhelmed by it, maybe doesn't want to go out there? What would you say to that young person?
Well, I think, you know, I've achieved a lot in my life. Yeah, I think the greatest achievement was, you know, that I actually heightened the awareness of speech impediments. You know, and I actually gave a bit of. I'm
going to stop you and tell you to take a breath.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Go deep. I've had enough of this. Right, go again.
And I think I tried to instill some confidence in people that, you know, have held back from. I'm really sorry, my speech is terrible all of a sudden.
No, it's
Look at
fine.
me. Block release. Take a breath. It's good radio. They like
Do you know what? Do you know
They
what?
love silence on the radio.
You've got as long as you like. You have as long as you like.
Really?
Yes, you do. Yes, you
Could be
do.
all night.
Nothing is going to be more important for me than to
Okay.
allow you to leave this with your head held high.
Okay, cool. I enjoyed that there might have been people at home watching and thought, well, if he can do it, I'm able to do it too. Yes!
well
Here we
done.
go.
Gareth Gates, I'm going to give you a big hug when I get up from
mate.
here. Are the expulsions some compensation for the fact that the party has now U-turned on its promise to hold an inquiry into allegations of Islamophobia in the rank and file?
Well, like I said, Matthew, the party has been brought to this issue dragging, kicking and screaming because it has to each time be publicly embarrassed because the media shines a spotlight on some cases. And then as soon as that case moves on, they just hope the matter will go away. And so during the leadership contest, when each of them was trying to prove their liberal credentials, every one of them committed to an inquiry into Islamophobia. And as soon as the leadership election was over, then the backsliding started again. And I mean, I think this is why there is a need for an independent inquiry specifically focused on this issue of Islamophobia so that once and for all we can get to the bottom of this rot and we can root it out.
Do you wonder, I wonder this, I wonder if you share the same thoughts, that if the Tory party had been subject to the same newspaper scrutiny, the same intensity of coverage that Labour Party has been put through over anti-Semitism, that the inquiry might actually be ongoing?
I definitely believe so, and I think there are two big differences between the way in which this matter has been dealt with when compared to anti-Semitism within the Labour Party. I think, first of all, people within the party, within the Labour Party, have been far braver in calling this out. I think the culture of fear within the Conservative Party, that actually this is a career-ending issue if you raise this matter of Islamophobia within the Conservative Party, is definitely there. And secondly, I think the media spotlight on the issue of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party has been far greater. And I think that's forced the Labour Party to act in a way that I think my party haven't been under pressure to do so.
Can you explain that, the welfare problems, how universal credit has, in your report's opinion, contributed to this sharp rise in the number of emergency parcels being handed out?
So the evidence shows that, just as you said, benefit issues are one of the key drivers pushing people into food banks. Now, universal credit should be part of the solution, should be a poverty-fighting reform, but currently aspects of it are leaving people without enough money to cover even the basics. So one key issue is that every person that moves on to universal credit has to wait at least 5 weeks for their first payment. That's much longer than people used to have to wait, and that's pushing people into destitution.
Is it the usual areas of blame, the delay in universal credit, or are there other factors to consider?
So primary issues is that delay. We also see that benefits levels and low incomes just don't cover costs, very much basic costs for people. And we also know that support that used to be available locally just doesn't exist in the same way either. So those three key drivers are why these numbers are increasing.
Abby, can you explain, I know that you have strict rules that govern who you hand out parcels to. Can you explain a few of those, what requirements people have to get these parcels?
So the key requirement to get a food bank parcel to receive emergency food is that you don't have enough money to cover the basics. Food bank volunteers don't make that decision. We have a network of thousands of frontline professionals working in their local communities, like schools, doctors, social workers. They make the decision whether somebody needs help, and then that person can come to the food bank. They can get emergency food, but more importantly, they can get a chat with a volunteer, a cup of tea, and hopefully some signposting to additional services. And that's how the process works.
But are we talking, because of these enormous figures, we're talking about widespread anguish here on the part of families and parents trying to feed their kids, aren't we, all across the nation?
Indeed. So every time I go to a food bank, you see families pushed really to the brink and living on a knife edge. Mums having to get by working multiple jobs to feed themselves and their family, people living with profound disabilities, unable to go anywhere else. So really we are talking about something which needs urgent action now. So we're calling for candidates to pledge to end hunger and poverty in the next government.
Oh, I was going to say, because in the most pressing time, surely, is going to be, we're not going to know who the next government is until December the 13th. That's assuming that they can decide if it's a possible hung parliament. We might not know the makeup of the next government until the following week. That's Christmas then, knocking on the door.